Hello everybody and welcome to class for January 17th. This will be a pre-recorded lesson, which is not the normal for us, so there will be moments in this class where I might ask you to pause and work on a few things. You'll be seeing right here, this is our first week of class, but this will be your normal setup for audio and video that you'll do at the beginning of the class, so just be aware of that for next week. Please go ahead and take a moment to make sure your cell phones are turned off, make sure your door is shut, and make sure that others know not to disturb you for the next 30 or so minutes as we work together. Our learning objectives for the day is I want you to be able to describe critical and collaborative thinking and be able to compare them to each other. I want you to be able to identify the benefits of creating a learning community. I want you to be able to differentiate between collaboration and simple interaction, and I want you to be able to identify the negatives of creating competition in learning environments. So what I want you to do right now, before we get started on our lesson, I just want you to take some time and think, based off what you currently know, what you think a successful and good learning community would look like. I want you just to pause for a few minutes and just reflect in your own mind. There's nothing you need to write down. And when you're done, go ahead and restart the video and we will continue on with the lesson. Good. Let's move on. So the start of our lesson, we're going to talk about critical thinking. Critical thinking requires students and people to explore, reflect, and analyze different knowledge and ideas. Critical thinking is a very, very, very desired skill out in the workforce. Employers want to hire people who have critical thinking skills. The problem they're running into is that they can't find too many people that have these critical thinking skills. And that's specifically because we're not preparing students in general education or in higher education to have these skills. When we talk about critical thinking, we really need to focus on collaborative thinking. Collaborative thinking is a crucial component to critical thinking, and collaborative thinking is something that will always outperform the individual thinker. So when we talk about critical thinking, we're talking about analyzing and evaluating and reviewing our own ideas. In collaborative thinking, we're doing all that, but we're doing it in a group of different people. And these different people obviously have different perspectives and ideas that can help change and refine our ideas. And together we can come up with ideas and knowledge that, by ourselves we would have never been able to accomplish. The group working together will always be able to outperform the one individual thinker. And when we talk about critical thinking and why collaboration is so important, is because it helps us fight our personal bias. Everybody prefers and feels more comfortable with sticking with the ideas and knowledge they currently have. It feels safe, it feels better, it's much easier just to stick with what we know. Collaborative thinking helps us fight those biases. If we think that our information is correct and we've always been told it's this way, and then we work with the group and like, oh well, there's recent research that's come out and you need to be looking at it this way, and why don't you read this research article that I found. And it helps alter those personal biases and helps people see when they might have been thinking incorrectly all along. I found this little video that I think does a very good job of showing us what collaboration is and what it looks like. I will go ahead and post that URL in the chat box so that you can all go ahead and open that up. Go ahead and pause our lesson for a few minutes while you watch this video, and then feel free to come back. All right, hopefully you enjoyed that video. Again, it does a very, very good job of giving kind of a quick overview of what collaboration is and why it's beneficial. So hopefully you got some good information out of that. It's time just to sit here and pause and reflect. What you should do is get out a separate sheet of paper, or if you're sitting at your desk and you have a second screen, you can always open up Google Docs and do this on there. But based off what we have discussed, how would you describe critical thinking and what benefits does a student gain from critical thinking? On top of that, what benefits does somebody get from working collaboratively? would be something else to reflect on. So in 2 or 3 sentences, go ahead and write down what you think and pause the video while you do. All right, welcome back. Hopefully you came up with some good ways to describe critical thinking, along with things like its analyzing skills, its reflection, working collaboratively in a group, helps fight personal biases. Those would have all been good things to write down. All right, now we're going to look at learning communities. Learning communities rely on all members being in an environment of open communication and critical discourse. And members need to share a common purpose. I can't emphasize this enough. Common purpose. If you are in a classroom and we'll always have that student that doesn't want to be there, they want to be doing something else, it's going to be hard to get that student to invest in that learning community because that student probably doesn't necessarily have the same goals as the other students in the class. We need to focus on that open communication and that critical discourse as well. Students need to know that they can freely share their ideas, and they need to know that if their ideas are challenged, that it's not a slight against them. It's just we're trying to refine our knowledge by discussing different ways certain ideas and knowledge can work. Okay, this is where reflecting, sharing, listening, and that's where all this comes in, where all we're really trying to do is refine our knowledge that we learn as a group. Learning communities need leaders and goals that keep them focused on the desired outcome. When we talk about general education, who do you think the leader is? Right there. We are the leaders in our learning environments, right? We are the ones who are coming up with the goals, and we're the ones that are leading our classrooms on a day-to-day basis. We are part of our own learning environments that we create. We are a member to this learning community that we're creating in our classroom, okay? And we are, in some cases, one of the most important members because we're the ones keeping everybody focused and moving towards that common goal. It's important to note that simple interaction does not equal collaboration. And what do I mean by this? As teachers, we've all assigned group work. What does group work typically look like? Well, if I went into a random classroom and I saw them doing group work and I went up to a group of 3 students, I'm sure one student would be, if it was a research, maybe one student's, reading through one of their references they're going to use, the other one's looking through another research paper they're going to use, and the third one's already working on their PowerPoint presentation, taking stuff and putting it on there. And if they have a 4th member, maybe the 4th member plans on presenting it. They're all doing different things, and while they're all completing a task together, they're not all really working together. They're all working separately while being together, and that's not real collaboration. If in collaboration, what they would be doing if they were doing a research paper was they'll all be going through that first source together and discussing what's the important information. What information are we going to take away from this? Is there a quote in here we can use? What's the big idea of this research paper that we should take away? And they're going to be discussing that with each other. That is what collaboration really is. Everybody working together and refining each other's knowledge. All right, it's time to pause and reflect again. What are the benefits of creating a learning community designed around collaborative thinking? And what would your ideal learning environment look like? So again, go ahead and pause for 1 or 2 minutes. And go ahead and write your answers down on a separate sheet of paper or on a Google document. All right, welcome back. So ideas that I'm sure plenty of you came up with would include things like collaborative thinking allows others to adjust their knowledge and obviously overcome personal biases, allows them to accomplish more in a group than they could individually. And why does that work well in a learning community is because that helps increase the learning of the entire community together, whereas opposed to of creating a learning community of individual learners, we're creating a community of group learners, which is going to help keep students interested and engaged, and it's going to help increase the learning overall. and what your ideal learning environment looks like. That's personal to you, and I would be interested to see what those look like. All right, next we have leadership reliance and competition. Learning communities need to avoid relying too much on the designated leader. And we'll get, and obviously for us, that means teachers. Learning communities need to avoid relying too much on us as teachers, and we'll get into that more in the following slide. But this can even go for in collaborative groups of students. If you put kids in a group of 5 and one kid takes the leadership role and all the kids are constantly just deferring to what that one student wants to do, that's kind of hurting the collaborative environment there of that group. Competitive environments can lead to a shutdown in open communication and a sharing of ideas. We need to avoid creating competitive environments in our classrooms. We can't entirely get away from this as schools, as we need to grade students, and grades can tend to lead to some sort of competition. But we need to avoid, doing things like offering prizes or designating winners and things like that when it comes to things like group projects or debating. Because when we create those competitive environments, what will end up happening is, as a class, if somebody gets ideas they want to share, they might feel like they can't share anymore. And what ends up happening is the sharing of ideas ends up shutting down because people think, well, I think my idea is really good. Why would I want to share that with anybody who can take it from me? So we want to make sure we try not to breed these competitive environments. And when it comes to creating competitive environments and debating, remember, we use debating as a way of refining our ideas that we have, right? So we don't want to create that competitive environment, because when it comes to that and debating, what always ends up happening is people stop really considering the counterpoint, and they always stick firmly to the point they're trying to get across because they want to win. And then on top of that, people who aren't as confident in themselves might tend to stop debating altogether, because while they might think they have great ideas, they don't want to be embarrassed, and they don't want to have to go through this competitive environment. So you know what, I'll just stay quiet and stay to myself. And that's something else we want. We don't want that to happen. We want everybody in our learning communities to be able to freely share. All right, time to pause and reflect again. What are the negatives to creating competition in the learning environment, and how would you avoid creating a competitive atmosphere on your own? This might be also a way to stop and think, have I created a competitive environment in my classroom? And if you have, what are ways you can alter your classroom to try and get rid of that competitiveness? Go ahead and pause this video for 1 or 2 minutes while you go ahead and fill this out and come back. Good. Hopefully we all took the time to sit there and think about, what are some things that we can avoid doing, and what our own classroom should look like. So we've talked about everything kind of with the classroom, but outside the classroom. But the main focus here is, what do our classrooms look like? What should they look like? How can we improve ourselves in the classroom and our classroom communities? Typical classroom environments struggle to create critical and collaborative thinkers. We know this. Employers are already telling us we need more critical thinkers, we need more collaborative thinkers, and there's just not a lot out there. And that's because these skills aren't learned. You can't send kids to a creative thinking and collaboration class. They learn these skills in the general education classroom, K through 12. They learn these in their classes in college all the way through. But our classes aren't really designed to create these critical and collaborative thinkers. We need to change how we teach and how we design our classrooms in order to accomplish this. Our classroom management and environments can easily be updated to create more open and welcoming learning communities. Again, get away from just doing simple group work and make sure kids understand how to work collaboratively. Use a simple tool that I like to use is something called Think, Pair, Share. I talk about this type of activity all the time, where you make kids think about a certain problem. So they're sitting there and they're reflecting about what they need to do. You put them together in a group where they have to share what they think about the idea, and they have time to debate and discuss and figure out, what is the best answer to this problem. And then they have to openly share that with the class, and then we all decide, what is the best solution to what we're working on. That is a very good collaborative activity that anybody can take and put into their classroom tomorrow. And as teachers, we are the leaders in our classroom environments. We are very, very important. We're the ones that are coming up with the goals. We're the ones that are leading the class. But we need to give students the opportunity to find knowledge and learn collaboratively with each other. Students, again, should not just be running to you every time they need to, they're confused on something. They should seek the help from classmates. We should put kids in learning groups, so that they can kind of bounce ideas off of each other. If students are immediately running to us as teachers to get confirmation on what they should be doing, or if are they correct or are they wrong, we're not really building them up to be critical thinkers, and we're not really building them up to work collaboratively. They need to learn to work through problems, and we need to help them do that. So sometimes sending a kid back to their desk or pointing a student to other classmates to work with is a much better solution than just simply bowing to the problem and giving students the information that they're seeking. All right, now we are to our final discussion board activity. All right, what you'll do is you'll open up your discussion board, just title it something like Week 1, Critical and Collaborative Learning. And what I want you to do is spend some time reflecting on your own classroom environment. And what I want you to do is, in 1 or 2 paragraph response, identify how your classroom fosters critical and collaborative thinking, and find aspects of your classroom environment that you would update or completely change to help create this ideal learning environment for your students. So essentially, in 1 paragraph, or the first half of your paragraph, write what you think you're doing well. Based off what you learned, identify what are you currently doing that works. And then in the second half of your paragraph, or in your second paragraph, write how you would make changes based off what you learned. If you went back to your classroom tomorrow, how would you change it? How would you change your lesson planning? How would you change your seating chart? How would you change your classroom management? How would you change these things to help create a more an environment that fosters critical thinking and collaborative thinking? And go ahead and pause while you work on this, and then come back and we'll finish up class. Welcome back, everybody. I am very, very excited to see the ideas that you came up with for how you would change your classrooms, that you can breed these atmospheres of critical and collaborative thinking. I cannot wait to look through them. All right, so we're at the end of class today, so let's go over some of the things that we learned. We learned critical and collaborative thinking allows students to explore, reflect, and analyze information they are learning, and helps foster new ideas and ways of thinking. We learned that learning communities help create open communication and critical discourse to help expand upon the knowledge being learned and help fight bias. We learned collaboration does not simply mean working together to accomplish a task, but we learned to build upon new ideas and knowledge. We also learned that learning environments that rely on competition shut down open communication and idea sharing. All right, these are the resources that I used today for class. The top is our classroom textbook, Thinking Collaboratively and Learning in a Community of Inquiry. And the last is the video that we watched earlier in the lesson. All right, and that's going to be it, folks. I cannot wait for us all to get together next week in our live session and work together to get to talk to you and get to meet all you in online person, so to speak. If you have any questions, I know I'm not here live today, but please feel free to email me any questions you have. We can also try and set up a time for us to meet either through a phone call or something like that. All right, everybody, I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you all next week live in class. Bye-bye.